Hi, how's everyone out there doing? This is Amy Hamilton, author of The Project Manager: Life is a Project and The Consummate Communicator: Character Traits of True Professionals. And I am super excited to have Pat Backley here with me today. And she is out in New Zealand. And when I originally started reading Pat's material, I was like, oh my gosh, what an amazing woman. And we absolutely have to get this information out there. I am adding her website to the bottom of the screen right now so that you guys will know how to reach her. And Pat, what time is it out there in New Zealand right now?
Well, it's 7 in the morning on Thursday morning, so
So
I'm a bit ahead of you guys.
you're in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wow, 7 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, I'm talking to you. So this just is like, a time space continuum kind of thing. Super exciting. And so, Pat, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I was going to say thank you so much for having me on your show, Amy. It's an honor. I'm very delighted to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's wonderful to have you, and it's wonderful to get the message out that you have. And I will just tell you, most Americans, we hear New Zealand, and the first thing we think about is Lord of the Rings, right? So, it's definitely good to get out there that there's more out there in New Zealand than just the filming of the Lord of the Rings. And so, if you could share with the audience a little bit of what inspired you to write your book, that would be terrific.
Okay, well, I had no intention of writing it. We went into lockdown last March. I'm almost ashamed to say that because here in New Zealand we're like in a little bubble with our COVID, because obviously whatever. Anyway, so I went into lockdown and I lay on, like most people, I just lay on the sofa for 2 weeks eating chocolate, feeling sorry for myself, and then I thought, Pat, just get a grip, do something. Oh, why don't I write a book? So I leapt up, got loads of paper, spread it all over the house, and just wrote day and night for 6 weeks. And Daisy was done. What inspired me, I wasn't aware at the time that anything was particularly inspiring me. But when I've read it and reread it and reread it about 2,000 times, I realized that a lot of it, it's a novel, but a lot of it is drawn from my own experience or experiences of my ancestors. Because you can probably tell by my accent I was born in England. I'm not a natural Kiwi. I'm just a learning Kiwi, a pretend Kiwi. And I came from quite a poor background, and historically my family were pretty poor Londoners. So I realise now that I drew lots of that information. It's also based in the States, in Alabama and Harlem, both of places I know not very well, but I have visited and know a bit about. So yeah, you don't realize how much is stored in your brain. And when you start writing down, all this information just pours forward. So yeah, I can't pretend it was a great epiphany, but it just happened, and yeah, that's it. And I'm now writing the sequel because I realized.
Well, I just think it's super fun.
Yeah.
I had an author earlier who's in Colorado who wrote a children's book based in Australia, which, same hemisphere over there as you. And I just thought how funny that my Colorado author is writing about Australia, my New Zealand author is writing about Alabama, and then my UK author is writing about Nevada. So
I guess as authors, we all travel the world in our heads, so just give us a slight hint of somewhere and we feel we can perhaps write about it at some point.
Pat, I don't know if you've ever coined that term, but as authors, we travel around in our head. I think that's a beautiful term. I think you should use that as a quote. I'm going to attribute that to you. And I mean, just a powerful statement.
Thank you. I just made it up. It just came out just a moment ago.
No, a terrific quote, because one of the reasons why I decided to do this today is January 20th, which is Inauguration Day in the United States of America. And a lot of people, this is kind of heavy. This is kind of people feel a little bit of anxiety. And so people said, oh, are you really going to do this on Inauguration Day? I said, what a better day. This is a day where people can use this as an escape. People can get away and traveling in your head. I mean, what a fantastic thing. Books are able to take us to so many places. And especially right now in lockdown when we can't travel, what a better place to go than travel in your head.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, can you tell me a little bit about how you worked on the character development in your book? Because your main character, she's very nuanced and complex. How did you go through that as you wrote and you rewrote?
To be perfectly honest, Amy, I had an idea of the plot. I had an idea of the characters, but they kind of wrote themselves. You know, I got this idea in my head of how I wanted, I knew how I wanted it to start and end, hence the title, Daisy. And I knew a rough plot, but I kind of didn't really know what anyone was going to be like or what they were going to do. But as I started writing, they just took on a life of their own. I can't really take the credit for all of it because they just suddenly became the people they were. And Daisy, the main character, she's kind of the thread throughout. It's not necessarily all absolutely about her, but it's about how she came to be and how the family evolved, because basically it's a family saga. I've had mostly very good reviews. I've had a couple of not very good ones who said that there were too many characters. And bearing in mind it's a 100-year span, so one assumes in a family you're going to get quite a lot of characters. And the other thing was most of my characters were too nice. There was no one very horrible. There are actually a few horrible people, but they're quite minor because I wanted to write it to make people happy. Not, you know, the world's bad enough. We don't really need to add to that doom and gloom. So anyway, so a lot of the people are very nice, as I believe most people in the world are very nice. So yeah.
Pat, we certainly have that in common. On my first book, The Project Manager, Life is a Project, one of the feedbacks I got is that my view of the world is very Pollyanna. And yes. I thought, you know what? If that's the case, I am so okay with that feedback because that's the world I want to create. And so I don't know if books should always be a reflection of our world. Maybe sometimes we can write books that are a reflection of the world that we want to be. And so it sounds like Daisy is that kind of book.
Yes.
So is that the takeaway you want people to get, is a positive family story? Or what are you looking for your audience to take away from Daisy?
I think it's very hard to say because obviously I wrote it. It's from my heart. Yeah, she's my baby. I think the underlying message that I perhaps want to give is that we are all equal, and regardless of how we're born. I mean, the quote on the front cover says, "The life you are born into is an accident of birth. How you live that life is what really matters." And I think that's probably the message I'm trying to get across, that it doesn't matter if you're born poor or rich or black or white, or it doesn't matter. Basically, how you live your life is what counts. And that's kind of, I guess, the theme through the book, although that wasn't my intention when I wrote it. But I realize now that that's the underlying theme, that we can all kind of come together regardless. Yeah, a bit Pollyanna-ish, as you say, but I'm like you. I loved that movie, and as a little girl, I always thought I had to make the world a better, brighter place. And I guess that's what I'm trying to do I hadn't realized that was what I was trying to do, but I guess that's the underlying theme of the book, really. But not, hopefully, it's a story. It's apparently quite an entertaining story. So, yeah.
But I mean, the stories are so important in the world, and so I definitely wouldn't sell it short. And anytime that you could take the world and make it into a bit of a brighter, happier place, you know, that's a great thing to do.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I'm just thrilled that I've been able to do it. I mean, I will be 70 in a couple of months, and I'm now living the life I love. I was abandoned by my husband 2 years ago, so life was pretty grim. And now I'm just absolutely up here. I'm an author and love my life. I'm writing lots more books. I've been invited to collaborate on an anthology, a coffee table book written in America about immigrant women. So that's very exciting. Yeah, life's good. Life's good.
I love that you shared that about yourself, because a lot of times people see the facade and there you are, you're a successful author, you have this glamorous lifestyle, but you just shared like something that made you very vulnerable about the fact that, you know, this at this point in your life, that you're on your own and that you're just thriving, even though you went through some hardship. So I think that the positivity shows that it's not just because you lived a charmed life, it's because it's a life that you've made to be charmed.
Yes, yes, you're right, really. And I'm very blessed and very lucky. It's, yeah. And I live in a great country. The sun's shining, and I shouldn't really say that, should I? But anyway, you've got a new president now, so it's all going to be great.
No, I think it's okay to love where you're at and to love the life that you have. And I will tell you, some countries, we have more opportunity than others, and some people have more opportunity than others. And so you do bring up a really good point. And that's one of the wonderful things about being able to use technology, to have this platform, to do an international book festival, is that some people might not have the same opportunities, and that this allows people that voice.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. That's the same reason we're doing this anthology, because we want to give young girls and women the idea that they maybe can have nothing now, but they can rise above it. So all of us women who are contributing, there's about 25 in the first volume, there will be more after. We've all become successful in our own fields. I'm the least qualified. The others have all got masses of strings of letters after their name, and they're pediatricians and lawyers, but the commonality we all have is that we've all started from a different point. So that's the idea of the book, really, just to give people, hope. I mean, as you get older in life, I think that's what we should do. We should all help each other. That's why else are we in the world, really, if it's not to help everyone else?
No, that's such an important point. And one of the earlier speakers we had today, Michael Faber, if you get a chance to check out his interview, he just really talks about, your life story, your successes, your failures, everything you've been through makes you you. And it doesn't take having a string of letters after your name or anything else. What it takes is for you to own it, and for you to just become the best possible you that you can be.
You're right.
Yeah, thank you. And the other thing is, we had Hassami Patel on. She was the first speaker of the day, and she did a wonderful job, very similar to you. Her original book is about helping girls to become women and the adversity they face. And now her next book, which is going to be coming out, is also focused on women and self-care. And it sounds like you had to go through some trials to get to the point of some dark times to get to some lighter times. What's your advice for people who are going through those kind of darker, less happy times to get to the point where you are now?
Okay, well, I must say I think I'm very lucky, because I've been blessed with a fairly sunny nature. I also have a very deep faith in God. So those are the two big pluses that have made it easier for me. I've had some unusual experiences in my life. In fact, I'm just about to publish my memoirs, so that kind of will show that it wasn't always this easy. Yeah, I think I've always just had a deep belief that if I just hang on in there, things will get better. And this is actually my second divorce. So, the first one I managed to make work for 14 years. This one, 26 years. So I'm really a trier. And I think that's the thing. Just keep trying and trying, and only give up on anything when you know really it's not absolutely not going to work. And then it's okay to tell yourself to walk away. But yeah, just try and be optimistic. And that's the hardest thing in the world, because not everyone can be. I mean, I had a sister and exactly the same upbringing, but she had some adversity and couldn't cope, and she committed suicide. So I'm not sure I'm the best person to give great advice, because I couldn't even save my own sister. But just hang on in there, I think, is life. There's always something around the corner. You don't necessarily know what it is, and sometimes you'd probably rather not know, but equally it's worth hanging on in there. I think life is good. We just have to kind of grit our teeth. And I don't really have any sage advice. I'm sorry.
No, actually, I feel like you're a kindred soul, a kindred spirit, Pat, because people are always telling me very similar things. Is, you know, I just have to believe. I mean, life is really amazing, and
Yeah.
I'm so blessed, and you know, I'm so happy to have you here today and on the show. And I would like to say I'm very, very sorry to hear about your sister. Suicide has
Oh,
also come up as a theme today, and we had a previous speaker on in November, Kaija Lane, and Kaija Lane wrote a survival guide for people who have lost someone to suicide. And it's something that is often not addressed. Is often we try to prevent suicide, which is so important. I mean, no way will I ever discount that. But unfortunately, when you lose a loved one to suicide, the way to cope with it, there's not a whole lot on that. So, you know, I don't, Kaija will give that book out to anybody who asks, because of it's such an important topic if you're ever interested. And I think the important thing of that for her is it was very therapeutic, because she shared the fact that her husband committed suicide.
oh, poor woman. That's terrible. Yeah.
But when you see her now, she's dancing in life and loving it, and just another kindred spirit and another author.
Yes.
Time is flying by today, and it's amazing. We are about halfway through the segment, actually a little bit over half. Oh my gosh, I don't know like where the time goes. I just want for our audience to know today, January 20th. If you're watching a recording later, just want to make sure today's January 20th, and my books are available for download free on Kindle. That's The Consummate Communicator: Character Traits of True Professionals, and The Project Manager: Life as a Project. These are both business leadership fables. They're super short reads, but what they do is give you an idea of how things could be, and also giving you some little nuggets from there. And Pat, did you have anything like what will people find when they go to your website, and things that you want to share about your publishing?
Okay, well, on my website, I've got some very pretty photographs. I've got an extended family in Fiji. When I was young, I lived in the Fiji Islands. So I've got this extended family. So they feature quite heavily on my website because, and also they're incredibly photogenic, which I'm not. So, yeah, I mean, they're my family. Obviously, they're not blood because they're black and I'm white, but they're there, and that does explain a lot about me, because when I was in my early 20s, I went to live in Fiji, which from the UK was a huge deal back in the 70s. I didn't even know where Fiji was when we were invited to go there. I had to get the atlas out in the days before Google, when you actually had to get out a great big atlas and and we found a tiny pinprint in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean. So yeah, what was I saying? Oh, about my website. So basically, my life has been very much guided by my experiences when I was young, and I think my website and my life reflects that very much. My memoirs obviously explain more about me, but the fact is now that I am now becoming a very prolific writer in my head. It's like someone's lifted off the top of my head and 69 years of words are just flying out, because I've got the plots for about 3 novels whizzing around in my head. I'm doing a sequel today, my book Daisy, and I'm going to write a short story book, because I've got so many stories, and I think, oh, I'm never going to get them out. I'm going to write till I'm 100 at least, but I might run out of time. So I think now, right, okay, I'll make lots of short stories, and then that will get lots of these things out of my head. So yeah, basically my website looks very pretty. My daughter designed it for me, but it's what's underneath, I think, which people won't necessarily realize when they look at the pretty pictures. Sorry, does that answer your question? Probably not.
No, you did an absolutely fantastic job,
Yeah.
and you really pointed out some things. And you're like, hey, I'm going to live to be 100 and continue writing. And so you started writing, you know, at a fairly, you know, mature age.
A very old age. Oh, you're allowed to say. Yeah. But I think, Amy, in reality, I mean, I did do a bit of scribbling when I was younger and, you know, had dreams of writing and things. But I realize now that, for example, I started writing my memoirs when I was 30. Well, that's pretty crazy, because at 30, you really haven't had very much of a life. So now I've completed them when I'm almost 70. And I've realized that actually you've got to live life before you can really try and explain it to other people. you know. Otherwise, you're not terribly well rounded, because life hasn't had all those pokes at you that knock you into the shape you are. Sorry, I think you've frozen.
I think that you're really hitting on. Hey, Pat.
Yes, yeah.
It's sorry about that, Pat. It seems like we had a little bit of latency there for a few minutes, but I think it's cleared up and it's better. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yes, thank you.
Great. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but what we were talking about was that you were saying how now that you have lived a little bit of life, and certainly I'm looking forward to your memoirs. Can you tell us when that's going to be coming out?
Yeah, it's with the editor in the States at the moment, so I'm hoping to publish it in March, so pretty soon.
Perfect. Well, that is a really exciting thing. And I'm actually going to be having all female authors in a month of March for Women's History Month, International Women's History Month. And I would love to have you back on the show to talk about your memoirs if you'd like.
I would be thrilled. Thank you so much, Amy. That would be lovely. Thank you.
No, that would be wonderful. And it seems like you have some wonderful stories to share. So,
yeah.
so that's exciting. One of the things that I wanted to tease out a little bit more on your writing and your characters is you wrote this story over 100-year time span.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
So what was the reason, and how did you come up with this concept? Because a lot of times stories are like a day or a week or a year, but it's not often you have a story that really just expands across that great amount of time.
No, I think once I got the basic idea in my head and I knew the scenarios I wanted, I realized that I was going to have to do quite a lot of research, because obviously if you're writing historical fiction, you need to get the dates right. Otherwise, yeah, it's not believable. And I wanted to incorporate some of my experiences in Alabama, but historic experiences, if you like. And I also wanted to incorporate my early years, the early 70s, 60s and 70s. And I thought, how am I going to somehow pull that together? And then the whole family saga thing occurred to me, because then you can span a whole heap of time. Not going into huge depth about every character, but just dipping in and out of people's lives. And I just managed to weave it all together. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, I'm in love with my book because it's my baby and I wrote it, but I just find myself just constantly picking it up and flicking through. And, if I sit down for a coffee, I'll pick it up and I'll think, oh, that's quite a good bit. It surprises me. And I think maybe because it does span such a wide amount of time, that a lot of people can empathize with it, because they've either known people because it just touches on slavery. They've known people who've had a history of slavery, or they've known people who've been very poor in London, because it's based in Alabama, Harlem, and London. So a lot of people it touches a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, I think it's an important topic. And earlier today, we had Patrick Gaybridge, and he talked about a slave. And this was all based on a true story that he wrote a novel about, who was able to escape, and actually his family, some other families, and take a ship from the Confederacy up into the Union. So really just kind of interesting how all the different stories, we all touch each other. Our lives are all interconnected. I want to thank you for sharing. We are getting close to the end of our segment, and I was wondering, is there anything that I haven't touched on that you wanted to talk about still?
I don't think so. I've so enjoyed talking to you. It's kind of just been like having a conversation with a friend, which is great. So thank you, Amy. No, other than if I could just give a little plug that my book's available on all the leading sites, you know, Amazon, Book Depository, Barnes & Noble, Walmart. And for the duration of COVID, it's available in paperback or ebook. And for the duration of COVID, I'm keeping the price of the ebook at 99 cents, because I'm very aware that, you know, times are hard for people, and I would really like as many people as possible to read it. So yeah, 99 cents for however long it takes nasty old COVID to go away, really. Yeah.
And such a really good point there about this is a hard time. Daisy is a wonderful escape. It's a positive story. It gives you a chance to leave the reality that's harsh here and instead go to a place where there's a sunny disposition, just like you, Pat. Thank you again for your time, and thank you for being on the show. And I look forward to having you again in March.
Oh, it's been a joy. Thank you so much, Amy.
Okay.
And thank you to your audience for listening. Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
great day.
Bye.